You've reached FITTV. Stick around. We'll be right back.
I've been laid out from work, my rent is due. My kids all need brand new shoes. So I went to the bank to see what they could do. They said, son, look like bad luck got a hold on you. But it's too tight to mention. I can't give an unemployment extension. But it's too tight to mention. Said, brother, I'd like to help you, but I'm unable to. So I called him my father, Father, Almighty Father. Said,
Family law litigants are familiar with the lip service phrase, change of circumstances. The courts are unable to deliver justice to that phrase, and it is lip service. Hardships, especially economic hardship, is the norm these days, and yet there is no accounting for our reality in today's court. We will talk to two people having unusual personal hardships that the family court will not remedy because they can't remedy it. This is a very difficult time to be making financial decisions, and the court is making them as if the law is up to speed with how our economic environment is. The name of this program is Give Me Your Tired, Your Weak, and Your Money, because the system is still acquiring money regardless of the state of health and mental health, and the lives of the children's mental health are in question. As an obvious reference, a Liberty reference for FITTV, let me a little lateral movement on the title, but that's exactly where it is. Give me your money. I have with me on my left Brian Cheshire, who's a disabled child support payer, and to his left Glenn Sabota, who's a support payer, who's had difficulty in the system. We're going to focus on your issues today, Brian, so give me a little highlight film as to what your problem is.
Okay, well, I've been in the family court, in the Child Support Bureau for approximately 10 years, and, at the beginning, I was, held to a certain amount of money for income, and not within like a year or two after, there was a change in circumstance. My ex's father at the time had taken a machine that I made money with away to help put me in a financial hardship. So right after that, I went back to roofing, and I actually wiped out the rest of the disc in my lower spine.
So your ex's father assisted in the removal of your income level by taking back something you could have used to make money to satisfy the needs of the support. Is that
yes.
right? Okay.
But during that, after I lost a piece of equipment, I went back to doing the roofing, like I said, but I was left with like a backhoe attachment, a chipper, just half of the package that we shared together. So, after my health started, going downhill, I applied, I went into the court, I said there's been a change in circumstance, I lost a piece of machinery, and, I brought medical reports in with me, so I could prove that I actually had injured my lower spinal cord. Once I brought the medical reports in to Support Magistrate Isabel Buse, I had handed them in, and she handed them back to me and demanded x-rays. So they weren't allowed in. I found out from a lawyer that was laughing because he thought it was funny that the Support Magistrate could not read medical x-rays. She had to be a licensed radiologist. So after I had heard that, I wasn't too happy to begin with. But I was going in there by myself because I could not afford an attorney anymore. Because the attorneys who were looking for $200 to $300 an hour. And at that time I was not working, so I started liquidating my tools and equipment to try to satisfy the child support and try to live on, basically. So
yeah,
I had sold almost everything that I could use to make money with.
You were forced to do that because you had an obligation to pay the support, and you weren't able to make the income you were making before, so you were kind of forced into that situation, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay. The court was aware of this, I suppose, aware of this change. Well, you submitted evidence in the change of circumstances, right?
Correct.
So they just overrode the reality of your life and applied an existing statute regardless of what your physical condition was like.
Correct.
Without having evidenced the health issue you had, the spinal injury.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it really does say a lot. That's how it is. Your situation's a little different, right? You had a child support obligation which never ended.
Yeah, it's it's only the beginning when you get divorced if you have children. It's until they're emancipated in the battle to emancipate them, and of course, cost of living increases, so on and so forth. It's just the beginning once you get divorced. I have seen some cases like Brian. He did mention, like he said, the X-rays. The judges asked for X-rays, and he just said the judge can't review X-rays. Well, I've met people that brought X-rays in, and they can't read them. The judges, the hearing exams, no, they can't.
They can't make a decision on it because they're not doctors.
I see a problem with that because this system's been around for many years. So
yeah, well, you look at the system is asking for experts for anything that you're making a presentation for in evidence. Doesn't it seem odd to you that there's a judge there that doesn't have any of these qualifications, yet is somehow going to make a ruling on your life when the evidence that's needed to present your case is not available to them? They don't have the opportunity to do it, or they don't have a legal right to do it, and they certainly don't know how to do it.
Unless you know how the law is the fact of the matter is that you need expert witness. So no matter what anyone says, if you do not have an expert witness, a doctor, to come in and testify on your behalf, it's all going to be hearsay. To read X-rays, it means nothing at all. And the hearing examiners know this, but they're just not telling Mr. Cheshire on where to begin with his trial. So he's already exhausted his attorney fees, and he has nowhere. But he was able to contact families in transition, and he was able to at least get some kind of a foothold.
We don't have the medical expertise either, but you know, you do have a. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
You know, I had gone in again after bringing. After speaking to a friend's brother that was an attorney in Manhattan, he told me what I have to do is I have to get out of the support magistrate's court and I have to get in front of a judge and show the judge that you actually have an injury. There is a change in circumstance in your case. You know, you don't want to. You're still looking to take care of your kids.
Sure.
But it's got to be to your means. They can't hold you to something that you cannot make.
But that sounds too logical. I can guarantee you that's not what's happening out there.
Well, the common sense was left out of the court system for some reason.
Yeah.
But I had gone back in under a contempt charge, before the same support magistrate, and I refused to swear in. I told her she was basically gender biased, and I would like to go in front of a judge. I brought my MRIs with me, my X-rays. I had 3 different medical reports with me. She decided after that she'd have a one-way hearing, So I sat there as my ex, said that was Mr. Cheshire, so on and so forth. After, the hearing, she said, Mr. Cheshire, you get your wish. Now you get to go before a judge. So.
But it was for a contempt.
Yeah. I went up before, Judge Allen Spinner, and I remember the date. It's just something sticking in your head so bad, It was December 17th, 2004. I was already seeing doctors for my spine. I went before Judge Allen Spinner, and I watched him because I could see him, I was on the other side of, where he was sitting. I was watching him go through his contempt reports. He stopped at one. It had a big yellow note stuck on the top of the report, and after I watched him read it, he took it out of evidence, swept it under the papers on his desk, and then he turned around and started yelling at me in the court. I said, Your Honor, I can prove I'm injured. I held up my papers. He didn't hear nothing from me. He tried sentencing me to 6 months, and I was arrested right on the spot.
That's how they do it.
Yeah, it goes on and on.
Yeah.
But I'm not an expert inside the court. I'm not a lawyer. I can't give you advice. But for me, I would go very hard and fast on that issue of getting the documentation in front of some superior authority. And I would do it pro se. I don't need an attorney for that, and I would just go for it.
How long were you in jail for at that point?
I was in, I believe it was 2 days. My father found out where I was. I tried, reaching him, but I couldn't, dial my parents' house. And after he found out where I was, he came out and he had to purge my bail.
Yeah.
And he came out to get me. It was a week before Christmas, and my father knew I had a back injury. Once I was out, I waited until, what was it, April? I waited 3 months to see a spine surgeon, and after that, I had 2 spinal cord surgeries at the beginning of the year in April.
Did they finally let you go? I mean, are they still looking to, because they can hold on to you forever and just can, hold you in contempt again and, and jail you again? And
Well, they've kept me at full pay. They've never, reduced my child support.
Was there a,
they force him to appeal, I think, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they can afford-
Would you mind saying how much you had to pay to get out of jail? Would you?
It was something like $4,800 to purge it.
Yeah, again, this here is very typical. What the family court will do is they know they could have the money extorted out of another
family
group
member.
of family members.
Yeah, right.
And with that said and done, I've seen the family court very, very selective on who they arrest. I mean, I'll see them go out of their way to make somebody pay $60 a week instead of $400 a week or $200 a week, knowing that there might be a chance to extort it out of another family member. That's a typical game that's played.
And it's true. It happens very often. A lot of people are extorted out of the family. They know that you're going to go run to stay out of jail. You're going to go run to go get help if you can. And what some people have done, and it's true if you can do it, but it's very difficult, just wait them out. Stay in jail. I mean, if you were able to stay in jail for a while, wait them out. I mean, what can else do? You can't get money out of nothing. It's on the taxpayer dollar.
Well, they'll make him pay child support while he's in there. I don't know what his obligation was.
Oh yeah, by the way, that
per week.
thing doesn't end because they consider that child support can't be broken. What they should realize is that the child support should be fairly analyzed first, and then it wouldn't be broken. But that doesn't come to.
But the court intentionally knew that he had a disability on him and did not send him in the proper direction. They had an obligation that he should have been directed to at least go see the probation intake unit, file the proper papers, maybe get an 18B attorney. He was destitute. His life and freedom was at stake. The court had that obligation to do that, and they knowingly and willingly incarcerated him.
Yeah.
Well, I tried getting legal aid, in the past. They gave me a piece of paper, and they wanted my parents to fill it out. They wanted me to write down on there that my parents were paying all my bills. Now, when I was in court, I had talked to a previous attorney of mine. I said, Kevin, can I turn around and perjure myself like this so I can get legal aid? He said, no, you can get locked up for it. So I did not do that. But I turned around. I did have the surgeries, and I went and I had a sheet metal class to try to retrain myself instead of doing the heavy roofing. I tried to lighten everything up. And I got about a good year and a half, 2 years after having surgery back to work, and then I re-injured my spine again. So it was the whole scenario all over again. I brought medical reports in, they wouldn't accept them. I turned around, after speaking.
The child support is in the family court. I think you probably have to get it to Supreme. I mean, no, it's an ancillary issue with family court handles. Child support issue, they handle it. They consider his issue a child support issue. They don't consider his issue a health-related assisting of the parents, a parent assisting the children. Because if they did look at the mental health of the child and the ability for a person to pay or fairly evaluate you, these things would never come up. But when they just look at you as a child support payer, you're stuck in the family court part of court, which removes you from fairer assessment in the Supreme Court.
Well, you're in the magistrates or the hearing examiners, and they're just a glorified collection agency for the state. They are not family court institute. Their job is to collect money. Their job is clearly not to give a non-custodial parent relief unless they're forced to.
No, but not for nothing. If you look at me, there's nothing. You look at the outside of me, there's nothing wrong. Now, if you turned around and you were legally able to read X-rays, if you held up the X-rays, you'd see all the steel and the screws holding my spine together. And I have nerve damage from that.
Well, you have a doctor, which we talked about before, who said he would be willing to come on board. I highly suggest you do that.
Yeah,
so for some future date.
My doctor, Dr. Green, he turned around. He came into court before the support magistrate 2 times, for me. And he testified in her court, that, I do have a spinal cord injury, and I am injured. I should be able to turn around and possibly get microsurgery, or I'll have to have another fusion. And he testified to that in court. They said, my ex's attorney, while we were in there, Chris, turned around, he wanted to know that if I could do sedimentary work. My doctor said, he'd be able to do it for about 15 minutes. but I have to be able to get up whenever I want or go lay down whenever I want when the pain becomes too much. The doctor also testified that I was on Oxycontin or Codeine, and he was giving me Demerol to the point where the stuff just wasn't working. Well, on a good night, I might get 3 hours of sleep in. Most of the time, I get about 2.
So they're still assessing arrears, am I correct?
Yes.
There's nothing that can stop the arrears, nothing. Now, has your ex remarried or anything?
No.
And the children are what?
My children live with my ex and her mother. And
In the mother's home?
Yes.
So there's no rental obligation at that point, or?
There's no rental obligation, but she'll tell you she pays rent.
Yeah.
But,
is she working?
She says she works 3 jobs. She was turning around, when we split up, she turned around, she was cutting hair at a high-dollar salon, and she was only claiming she made $115 a week.
Could you appeal to better common sense about your situation? Does she know you have back injuries? I'm talking about your ex. Does she know?
Yeah, she picked out the first doctor I ever went to. She had me go down to her chiropractor's office at the time, and they did the x-rays, and you could see the damage on my spine. But when we went to court, she'd raise her right hand and swear on the Bible that I never injured my back.
That's, how does she know? And you have the medical support. The medical support should supersede testimony on the other side. This is an adversarial court. I mean, that's why they hire the forensics, right?
Well, he's going through that now, and this is now his chance to have the which would be a downward modification. That's what he's looking for. I mean, unless he gets disability or he's put on welfare, you know what I mean. Then there's other things he could do. Until then, he needs a modification of child support to have it reduced. And he's got the arrears problem, which has got to acute interest. So it's a revolving loop you will never ever get out of unless you could pay this whole thing off.
Yeah, but there's ways to fix a lot of the problems in a family court. If we turned around and put cameras in all the court systems.
Good suggestion, yeah.
Because the cameras would stop, all the wrongdoings in the court. If we turn around, if we put scanners in, so I could scan my medical reports in, because I'm supposed to be innocent until I'm proven guilty.
Right.
Yeah.
I found, so many other fathers and stuff in the same scenario that I'm in.
It occurs to me that because you're in an adversarial court, begins and then establishes the wrong way to do it.
Yeah. Well, family court.
It's automatic. It starts that bad process of not being able to get to the truth right away because one side's protecting the other. You have a lawyer to zealously defend you, regardless of the best place for children to be in. I mean, there's no common sense to that.
I believe family court is probably the only court that you're guilty until proven innocent.
Right.
That goes with some of the bogus orders of protection handed out in the counties. I mean, let's not forget 80 to 85% of them were founded baseless and unfounded. That came from the sheriff's department. And it's just.
You mean abuse allegations?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. It's
well,
still
just
the same.
false charges. I mean, the judges go right along with it. I mean, that starts the whole process of child support and going through divorce inventory for the counties.
Well, the state, until it develops either mandatory mediation, or a joint custody statute, until we can do that, the game of protecting one's client, zealously protecting them, and using the tooling available to them with the magistrates and courts and judges making these decisions they can't make and have to bleed you dry for forensics. It's a forensic opportunity.
Well, when people are injured, how come there isn't a special section of the court that deals just with injuries?
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
There's too much. But listen,
that's a good suggestion, by the way.
I spoke with Judge Leese, Cheryl Zimmer, on behalf of 4 people at one time that are injured and disabled and/or on welfare. Pretty much getting their throats slashed in the Central Islip Courthouse. And we made sure Tom Sartain from the Legal Aid Department, who teaches at the Toro Law School on the rights of a non-custodial father, we made sure to let him know that these problems are still continuing and it's still being overlooked. And now, we have these people, going with their eyes being watched, that we're watching them. So this stuff can be put to rest. And it is helping a little bit. But to eradicate the arrears is...
Yeah, that's the other thing. Well, if you look at it just financially, then you can say, well, if I can create a dollar stream of money that would work towards taking care of my kid, who would argue with that?
Nobody would.
Right. So they have you at your mercy as long as you have an asset trail of some kind, something to deplete.
No, the last time I was
Which could be your neighbors, it could be your friends, it could be family.
The last time I was in court, now I don't have anywhere near the tools and equipment that I used to have. I have basic hand tools, some saws and stuff. My ex's attorney wanted me to sell the rest of my tools and give her the money. And then I looked at him, I said...
Right, because you're a dollar sign.
I looked at him, I'm like, how am I ever going to go back to work? When I'm able to go back to work, I won't have any tools. What do I do then? That wasn't his concern.
Yeah, because the concern is only what dollar value they assess and how are they going to squeeze it out of you. It doesn't make any difference whether it's the right thing to do for the children. What dollar sign can they attain?
But with the child support, what they also do, and you're aware of, they pull your contractor's license. After I was able to go back to work, I had problems finding work. I could only work on new homes.
Yeah.
If I worked on your house, Chris, if the job was perfect, you didn't have to pay me. And if I was caught working on your house, being a separate residence,
you'd be in trouble.
I'd get a $1,000 fine.
So it's catch-22 for you in every direction you go.
And then they turn around, they took my driver's license to where my ex exploited that one. She made it so I couldn't pick up my daughters. Yeah. So my mother would have to pick them up. My friends would pick them up for me. My girlfriend would pick them up. It was just, it's like the kids were the leverage tool.
You have no license, or you have a restricted license?
No, they gave me a restricted license, but she made it so I couldn't pick them up with the restricted license.
Let me just tell you one little word of advice. We argued this through Families in Transition over 10 years ago to centralize up Judge Freundlich and Gail Prudente at the time, that we want to make sure that restricted driver's licenses are included for picking up visitation in Suffolk County. So I just want this, people to understand that we made that clear, that because that was a weapon, a restricted driver's license. You couldn't pick your children up, but we made sure.
I'm of the belief system that it's got to be more than just unfair. It's got to be unlawful. There should be a law that says they cannot restrict your employment license or your driver's license. Those are the two things that allow you to get to make the money trail they're asking for to begin with, and the place you need to get to visit and access your child are the two most important things for your family. I mean, if they stop you from doing both of those, then all they're doing is depleting available assets.
Chris,
that's it.
What Glenn just said, with the driver's licenses, they didn't know in the court that, with a restricted license, I could still drive with my kids. I was made so I could not drive my children with a restricted license.
Well, that's...
Well, there's a big disconnect in the system. There's no question about it. I mean, this is a perfect example. But I would go forward in whatever way I could on the health issue, get whatever documentation I could, and I would just go after them. Yeah,
my doctor will back me on that. Because he sees everything. He's got the MRIs to prove it. He's got the medical reports.
It's just how much more money can they drag out of you, and there's no way to stop the support thing, as Glenn, you were talking about before. There's no way you can stop this. So the only way to do it is to get the modification. I understand that the state is finally becoming more and more lenient. The amount of complaints has just grown so greatly, and that's why you should complain. More people in the pool that complain about the situation seriously complain to their legislators, the more access to the possible eventual truth we might get.
Chris, one of the problems is, that people are afraid of the judges and lawyers and stuff, because, when they turn around...
It's an intimidating place to be.
Oh, it's a very intimidating place to be, because, they have all this power. We've given them too much power,
That's
and
right.
they're not accountable for it.
Right.
When I injured my back, I met, the gentleman in a restaurant, and he had asked me all these different questions, how I pay my bills, and I said I can't, and everything. After I had that spinal cord pack on with the wires hanging out from under my shirt, he asked me if I was the Unabomber, joking around. I said no, I had 2 spinal cord surgeries. He had turned around, asked me more questions. I told him about the court system and how my child support arrears are being run, and how I was locked up. Everything that I just told you. He looked at me with a funny face, and he turned around and said to me that, they weren't supposed to do that to you. They violated your civil rights under the color of law. Now,
Color of law.
You know,
Just
it's a constitutional right. You know, it's a whole bunch of rights, you know, intertwined with one thing. But one of them, it's called conspiracy against rights under color of law. You know, that's what the judge and the support magistrate had done to me. And he said that I could sue them if I could. I'd asked attorneys about it.
Is that a human right or a civil right?
It's a civil right.
Okay.
You know, now, you know, like I said, I asked attorneys about it, and they said that they would never come up against a support magistrate or a judge because they would lose every case that they ever brought before that court.
That's right.
A fact.
You know, but I remember finishing in the restaurant, and you know, I shook the guy's hand. I said, you know, thanks for the information. I'm like, don't tell me you're a lawyer. He's like, no, I'm a judge.
Yeah.
You know, and I just, you know, I was like amazed that I actually got honest information, you know, from somebody in the justice system. Yeah. But I have to say, not all the support magistrates are bad, not all the judges are bad. You know, it's the ones in there that are bad that give them a bad name.
It's the system that has it is where the fault lies. How do you say to a judge or a lawyer that's ever good in a system so corrupted? It's so corrupted, everybody's going to look bad.
I think where this starts is that probably still 95% of women, I mean the latest that I have seen, still gets custody. So 5% of the time the judges are honest. And you might have a 60% chance of getting custody if you outspend your wife. So, and I know that average fee could cost you upwards of $100,000 to maybe get custody. So it's
Joe, I've seen people get custody just simply because they were a moneyed spouse, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely. I just had a guy at work would spend $100,000.
A poor person has much less opportunity to get fairness.
I turned around, you know, when I was a licensed contractor, you know, you could call the Suffolk County, licensing thing and check all the complaints on me.
Yeah.
You know, if I call up the Bar Association, I want to check out a judge or a lawyer, they won't tell me nothing about them.
No, we have websites we can send you to that have the numbers of complaints. OCA complaints, that's for judges, Office of Court Administration. You know, judicial accountability for lawyers. There's ways to find out some of that stuff.
But how come, you know, the regular people aren't in charge of all that stuff anymore? How come it's got to be a lawyer that's in charge of, you know, all that?
They make the laws.
That's right. I mean, this is one big cycle. I want to thank you very much, Brian Cheshire and Glenn Svoboda, for helping me out with this program. Give me your time, your week, and your money. It's just all about the money. Family court is a civil court, it's a court of equity. So it's a matter of where the balance of dollars are. Your children are meaningless. I hate to say that. Hopefully in your future that'll not be your situation. Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. At FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own, so we'll bring it to your TV every single week. We always invite all opposing views. My name is Chris DiMaggio, and thank you very much for watching FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week.